Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by on this amazing Saturday episode of Bullet Points. It's a beautiful Saturday, so therefore, we got to bring you the very best. And I'm going to tell you guys the reason Bullet Points was created to supplement our 9 p.m. show, to really meet the left and where they go with their editorials, their interviews, and the left intelligentsia, places like this article right here. Now, this is an editorial from The Atlantic. The Atlantic is far left. We're talking Obama, Martha's Vineyard far left. Latte liberal far left. That's who these guys are, and that's who they write to. But something's happening. The gun control narrative and debate is changing. We've documented on this channel a bunch of times over the year. Little hints, little tone changes, interesting things. It's starting to go mainstream on the left, and you're going to see it in your own, basically your own politicians. You're going to start to see this, and it's important that we bring it forward now to get in front of it because this is interesting. They're starting to conflict with their own narratives, and that's how you know you're winning. Don't you give up. We are going to pass this blessing of the Second Amendment along to the next generation. But now, let's dive into this. It is linked in the description box below, and I want to know what you guys think because this is huge, okay? Here's the article title. How to Persuade Americans to Give Up Their Guns. Persuade. That's a very interesting word, right? It's not force. It's not legislate. It's not politic. It's persuade. They're realizing that Americans are taking up their natural right, and they cannot stop them. I'm going to keep going, but let me know. I want to know what you guys think. Now, these first three things, these are three snippets. I've got to do this whole article in snippets because it's massive. But listen to what I've pulled out for you. These first three quotes are important, and that's why I'm doing it at the front, and then we'll get into the main article. Number one, the legalistic approach to restricting gun ownership and reducing gun violence is failing. That's left speaking to left. Okay? They openly say in this article it's failing. This is not a small publication. This is The Atlantic. Number two, the way to reduce gun violence is by convincing ordinary, responsible handgun owners that their weapons make them, their families, and those around them less safe. Okay, persuasion again, convincing. They're starting to target the culture and the understanding around guns. They are shifting and they understand what's happening. They are wrong. In some cases, they're malicious, but they're not stupid. That's important. Never underestimate the people you're fighting. And this one right here is my own personal favorite because the tone of this article is very condescending. It's very left intelligentsia, okay? Listen to what this moron says. That's right, I said moron. 2,500 years ago, the Greek writer Thucydides, we're going with that, described the progress of civilization. It began, he said, when the Athenians ceased carrying arms inside their city and left that savage custom to the barbarians. It's long past time for Americans to absorb this first lesson from the first democracy. Okay. So now we're savages. We have savage customs, and we're barbarians. Just want to throw that out there. But it's interesting because he wrapped up this article as his little punch 1-2, like, I'm so smart and intelligent. Well, the interesting part about this is, at this time, the Athenians embraced slavery in their culture. About a large percentage of their population was slaves. That's interesting. It's a shame that this person is endorsing slavery by association. And that's what they do, and that's what's so frustrating. That's why we focus on this at Bullet Points. These guys are focusing on that, well, they stopped carrying arms because they're civilized and not barbarians. They still had slavery. Shut up. We're not talking about that right now. We'll talk about that later when we need it. We'll put that in the closet. These people are just, that bothers me. But anyway, let's keep going. So this is what they're doing. Like in this article, this little snippet right here is how they set up the reasoning for what they're suggesting. When the coronavirus pandemic struck last year, people throughout the developed world raced to buy toilet paper, bottled water, yeast for baking bread, and other basic necessities. Americans also stocked up on guns. They bought more than 23 million firearms in 2020, up 65% from 2019. First-time gun purchases were notably high. The surge has not abated in 2021. In January, Americans bought 4.3 million guns, a monthly record. And this is what's making them realize they're doing this wrong. They're losing the legislative fight. They aren't getting the things they want. And wait until you see what he says about the New York case, because this is important. But they're starting to notice what's happening. It's imbued in our culture, and that's what we are. And they notice it, so they're trying to change the culture. Now, I've got three things here. These next three little snippets I want to highlight because they're changing their own narrative. They're conflicting with their own narrative. You tell me below what narrative they're conflicting because this is important to note. When they change, that's what they do. They conflict themselves and they make a new narrative. Check it out. Half of almost half of 48,000 suicides committed in 2019 were carried out by a gun. All this slaughter is enabled by the most permissive gun laws in the developed world. 48,000 suicides, so that would mean 24,000 were done with a gun, out of 40,000 homicide deaths, gun violence. Remember that? 40,000 gun violence deaths a year, but you're saying here 24,000 of them are suicides. You're conflicting with your own narrative. I thought it was all this pervasive violence, but it's not. So now you're saying it's suicides. You're changing your narrative. Look at you. Don't focus on what they change it to. Call them on for changing it away from what they changed it from. All right, and here's number 2. And for all the focus on assault rifles, they make a small portion of firearms in private hands, approximately 6% of all guns owned. Partner that with Eric Adams, the New York mayor, who when he was getting elected to his mayorship in New York recently, he said, we made a mistake focusing on rifles in the Democratic Party. We should focus on handguns and gangs and crime. They're shifting away from the assault weapons and they're going back mainstream to handguns. This is a theme. They always do this. They are very aligned with each other. And here's the third one. Above all else, guns are used for suicide. In any given year, twice as many Americans die by suicide as by homicide. Well, I thought the big problem was the pervasive gun culture. Ease of access to firearms, a flood of firearms, easy access, no background checks. H.R. 8, 1446. Nothing? No, now it's you. All right. And this one, I'm going to wrap this up with this one part of this article about the New York pistol case because they let something slip on accident. This fall, the Supreme Court will hear a case, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Corlett. This is the case we've covered. This is the permitting case for handguns in New York, specifically New York. 13 years ago, in District of Columbia v. Heller, the court for the first time recognized people's constitutional right to own firearms as individuals. Where'd I go? Not just as members of a well-regulated militia. Now, lawyers for the New York affiliate of the National Rifle Association will argue that the Second Amendment should be interpreted as granting a constitutional right to carry or bear firearms in the streets, parks, and playgrounds. Now, he said streets, parks, and playgrounds just to scare you. That's stupid. Anyway, if the NRA prevails, the nearly 400 million guns in the United States will show up in even more places than they do now. Now, that's the key. Interesting how you said 400 million guns. Well, are 400 million guns going to show up in New York? No. So what are you alluding to? Oh, are you alluding to the fact that if this gets struck down in New York, then it has to go through every other blue city? Is that what you're alluding to? You're losing the legislative fight because you overstepped and the judicial is smacking you? That's what I brought to this article for you here today, guys. This is important. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you at the 9 p.m. slot tonight. I'm Braden, signing out.